we're back.
Back again.
I don't know what we're doing here. I'm sorry, I'm gonna leave you hanging.
I thought you were gonna like Joe is back.
Joe is
No.
back. Joe
Never
is.
heard. Never mind. It's an M song.
Oh, I don't know. I don't listen to that hippity hop stuff.
Well, you should because we're reviewing the most hippy hoppy franchise ever made.
I find it hilarious actually that we are watching these movies because I've had no inclination because I just like I'm not into that kind of stuff, and here we are doing Fast and the Furious.
Oh,
This is Fast Cast Podcast, Tokyo Cast, Drifters Cast, Drift, Tokyo Drift, Fast and Furious, Tokyo Drift podcast.
that title was probably less butchered than some of the actual Fast and Furious titles.
That's actually that's a very fair point. This is the point in the franchise when we realize that they're not going to be continuing to try to force the numbers into the titles, and they're just going to do whatever the hell they want with any sequel titles.
Yeah. Although of all the sequels, this is the most logically titled.
It is. This is the only one that has a subtitle, which you'd think most franchises, if they're going on for 7 movies or more, would do. Just throw a subtitle up there, so you don't have to throw the number in there every time. But they just keep changing their mind every time.
Yeah, and it also it also keeps all the words from the original title. It's the Fast and the Tokyo Drift, not Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift, or not Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift, or not the Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift. So yeah, it's really interesting because it's like, oh wow, like for a change, we actually have a sensible title.
So going into this movie, I had heard that it chronologically fell into a different point in the Fast and the Furious timeline.
Yes, I guess actually, technically, the only one that takes place after this so far is the one that's coming out. Is number 7.
But before I'd seen it, that's all I'd heard about it was that it took place in a different place chronologically. So I wasn't sure if it took place before or after or where it fell in place. So when the movie opened up and you saw the main character, I thought he was a young Paul Walker for like half the movie until I finally looked it up online.
Oh my gosh. Okay, we'll get into that in a minute, but I do want to say right off the bat, this movie feels different and is way different than the first two. The first two, even though they were directed by different directors, are kind of stylistically the same thing. This movie, though, was directed by Justin Lin, which is kind of noteworthy because he'll be our director for the next 3 movies after this. He's kind of the main person responsible. I think also the writer of this is also the writer going forward on all these movies. So they were kind of responsible for bringing the Fast and Furious franchise to the heights that it's at today, which is interesting because I think in some ways, maybe not critically, but I think this is the low point for the franchise because the vibe I always got from this movie when it first came out especially was that, oh, they can't get Paul Walker back, they can't get Vin Diesel back, so they're going to basically go the American Pie route and do all these direct-to-DVD like spin-off movies. Like you would have Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift, and then you have the Fast and the Furious Down Under. And, like, it would just be like,
oh my gosh, we need that.
It would just be like all these different car racing movies, and the Fast and the Furious would basically become a brand, kind of an umbrella for just all these different types of car movies. And somehow they managed to get out of that rut. And I think the answer for that is within this movie, and we'll get to that later. But yeah, right off the bat, it's a completely different movie. And location's a huge part of that. Director's a huge part of that. Justin Lin is actually an interesting director because he's directed 4 Fast and Furious movies. He's supposed to direct the next Star Trek movie. But he actually started off doing like these independent movies that focus on Asian Americans and kind of their problems living here in America. And apparently Roger Ebert was like a huge fan of his. So it's just kind of interesting that he became the guardian of the Fast and Furious franchise.
Yeah, it is really interesting. Also that this is the guy that kind of shepherded the Fast and Furious films for 4 movies in a row, right?
Yeah.
Because Again, I don't know what audiences' reactions were to this one, but I was definitely getting the feeling that this was the low point of the film so far because from here on out, to my understanding, they changed tone and style drastically. I mean, like even from this, like no longer after this movie is it about the car racing and the street racing and the bro culture and that kind of stuff. They turned into more heist films from the fourth on, from what I've heard, which is interesting
Yeah,
because this one, I mean, stylistically, it's different from the first two, and and of course, story wise, it's completely different. It's not even really connected to the first two movies, but it's still about the fast cars driving really fast, which is what the franchise has been kind of at its core up until this point.
yeah, and actually, of all the Fast and Furious movies, this is the one that actually focuses the most on street racing,
It does, yeah, yeah,
which is kind of weird that it took 3 films to get to that point.
yeah. Because because the first two movies still had this kind of undercover cop subplot going on, you know, with characters infiltrating criminal organizations, and um, they try to do that a little bit in this one, but it's kind of shoehorned in near the end, and it's by no means the focus of the movie.
Yeah, this movie just starts because the main character loves car racing.
And
um,
almost
and
kills two people.
yeah, let's start right there. Immediately, this movie. I'm just gonna come out right there, right here, and say it. This is probably my least favorite of the three, for a couple reasons that we'll get into. But one of it was I was laughably distracted the entire movie by the age gap. Uh, Lucas Black, who plays replacement Paul Walker, is supposed to be in high school, but he is at least 30 years old. And everyone who claims to play a teenager in this movie is 30 years old. The bro jock guy that he gets in a car race with in the very beginning of the movie was the brother on Home Alone, or not Home Alone, Home Improvement. And just one of those things that's like they're not even trying to hide it. Like everyone here looks super old, and it's just like either if they changed it to like, oh, they're college students, I would have believed that a lot more than saying they're high school students.
Yeah, but you know, they still talk like high school students, so it's okay, bro.
I guess. Oh, but speaking of that, I love how we basically traded Paul Walker's California bruh for Lucas Black's Southern drawl.
That distracted me so much during this movie. I was like, this character feels like he's some backwoods country boy, you know, from a farm, or whatever. And here he is in like Tokyo. All right, so we're gonna be driving along here on the street, and you're gonna turn left over there.
Yeah, it really it really didn't make much sense to me because like I know the movie's called Tokyo Drift, but when he showed up in Tokyo, I was like, why are we in Tokyo? And I know they have the explanation like, oh, his dad, who is I guess in the military over there. Um,
Yeah, and we didn't want to go to jail for almost killing two rich kids.
yeah, but it didn't make sense to me because I was like, I feel like there are two different movies you could make here, and each of them I would have enjoyed watching. One is like, oh, we'll do the Fast and the Furious, but we'll kind of do more of like a backwoods, like a Dukes and Hazzard movie. And then the other one, like I get their whole idea with the movie is, oh, let's do a fish out of water in Japan movie. But and especially because Justin Lin obviously is of Asian descent and he specialized in all these Asian American independent movies. I would have almost probably preferred if it was a movie just focused on characters like that, or it was like an Asian American character who has to like go back to his roots or whatever and goes back to Japan and learns about all this stuff. I just felt like I it was one of those things where like the fish out of water story felt like almost too fish out of water. It's like, oh, we're really taking the furthest extreme. But because it wasn't a comedy, it didn't really work for me because it's like, oh, it's an action movie. So, you don't really have to rely on laughs, and the movie doesn't really rely on laughs. It's not like, even though he kind of sounds dumb, the character is not dumb. So it just kind of, I don't know, it didn't really make sense for me that they would kind of do that with his character.
Well, well, let's talk about the style really quick because this is really interesting to me, and I'm actually starting to get really invested in these movies. If nothing else, than just for a film history standpoint for the past 10 years or so, whatever.
Yeah.
Is that I'm starting to think that you can track the evolution of the modern action film through the Fast and the Furious movies
I agree.
because
I I think yeah, because it starts off as one franchise and becomes a very different thing.
yeah, and the very first movie, very first Fast and the Furious movie was you watch it for the hilarious nostalgia value, partially, with the music is dated, the way the characters are acting is dated, the clothing is dated, the cars are dated, everything about the first Fast and the Furious movie is pretty dated.
Yeah.
It's a product of its time, um, and the first two movies loved using, as we talked about before, the overusing the green screen and the CGI cars and the camera zooming in and out and that kind of stuff. This one, they the focus isn't so much on the neon colors and the CG as it is in on the lights, and there's a lot of bright lights going on, some lens flare stuff going on. The camera is still locked down, but the car chase scenes don't do that crazy moving in and out of cars anymore. They just shoot it from another car on a crane, basically.
Yeah.
Still see what's going on, but but it feels much more like it's trending towards a Bourne movie or something along those lines as far as the way it's shot.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And
It's
just
it's I hate to say it's more realistic, but it feels I feel like there's a lot of potential for this movie if it wasn't a Fast and Furious movie. It could have been this nifty car movie that wasn't as over the top as the others, and it still isn't as over the top as the others, but it still kind of has that because that's what we kind of love about these movies.
exactly, it's not a fun movie in the same way that the first two. I mean, it's still a pretty fun movie, and it's got its own points that I liked. You still have the characters are just staring each other down the whole time. That villain's face, oh my gosh,
Oh, I hated his face.
I wanted to punch that face so many
Well,
times.
it reminded me of an Asian version of a kid I didn't care for in high school, so it's more reason to why I wanted to punch him in the face. 'Cause
He had this little smile on his face with his eyebrows raised up, and he's like staring you down like he's a badass. I'm like, no, just stop.
yeah, yeah.
And then discount Paul Walker, like he's always staring at everyone like they stole his lunch.
Do you know why Paul Walker isn't in this movie?
No,
He wasn't asked back by the studio because they felt he was too old. Which goes back to that point early on. It's like that doesn't make sense because you have Lucas Black who's like 30 playing a 17-year-old. It just doesn't make sense. And because obviously they brought Paul Walker back, but
I
I
guess Paul Walker can't rock the long shorts and the t-shirt anymore.
I guess not. Um, uh, but one of the positives of the movie, and again, so like Too Fast, Too Furious, the best thing about Tokyo Drift is that it introduces a character who is going to become very important in the rest of the franchise, even though he dies in this movie. Spoiler alert. That's the character of Han. I loved Han. He was just a cool character. Like he's the kind of character that you want to see in this world. Like even though the other movies, the characters apparently knew stuff about cars and could talk about it and whatever. I never really believed them. But Han was a character who I fully believed knew this world and just like looked like he could navigate it. And I was like, damn it, I wish like he was the main character or that there was a character who was better matched with him as the lead character because it was one of those things that when he dies about three-fourths of the way through, I was like, oh, you got to be kidding me! The best part of this movie is gone.
Yeah. His character, I think is the first character in these films that I genuinely really liked. I mean,
Yeah,
like much as I enjoyed Paul Walker in the first two movies, and he's kind of touted to be almost the Boy Scout of the franchise up until this point. This guy in this movie, was it Han? Khan was it?
Han.
Han, that's right. He's I don't know, he just means so well, but he gets along with I mean like he doesn't get along with everybody, but he knows he knows how to fit in, but in a good way. He knows how to tell you what you need to hear at that exact moment.
Exactly. Like he might not get along with everyone, but he knows how to navigate the room.
Exactly. He's the sort of guy like that you could introduce to your parents as like, oh, this is my new friend. Like, oh yeah, he's a nice guy, but he could also like get along with the guys in the garage who are
just, I just have the funny image of you introducing Han to your parents.
Hey, mom and dad, here's my new friend, Han.
This is my friend.
Please don't tell my wife about him.
Yeah, but yeah, yeah, this movie's worth it just so we could get Han in the later movies. And it's convenient then that this movie does take place apparently after a couple of them, because sadly his character dies 3/4 of the way through. So I'm glad that they found a way to get him back in the franchise.
Life finds a way.
Life finds a way. Um, we should probably talk about the subtitle because that's what basically the whole movie is about Tokyo drifting.
The movie's all about Tokyo and it's all about drifting. There's just
So,
so many shots of Tokyo just in this movie, which I know the movie takes place in Tokyo, but it's just the way they shoot it just glorifies Tokyo incredibly with all its lights and the colors and everything. It's crazy.
yeah, it's really well shot. Um, this whole movie kind of reminded me of Mario Kart because Lucas Black starts off, he can't drift shit like I do in Mario Kart, and then in the end he gets really good, but I'm not really good at drifting in Mario Kart whatsoever. So
I just love how all of a sudden drifting becomes like a thing in this movie because I mean okay up until now they haven't really talked about the way they're driving or anything. This one just all of a sudden they're just fascinated with the fact that cars can turn these tight corners like this, and it's all anyone ever talks about in the entire movie.
but it is cool and kind of refreshing that you kind of get a different look at street racing and how uh, different people use it around the world. Like I said before, it felt like this is where we were kind of getting into spin-off territory with the franchise. So, you know, it was kind of necessary at this point to kind of inject some type of new blood. So I'm glad that they kind of introduced this element into the racing, so it wasn't just the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I agree, but then again, yeah, like it couldn't save the movie in the long run.
No. But drifting does give us the coolest part of the movie when they're in that car chase and they notice there's the crowd of people and they can't alert them to get out of the way fast enough, and they just barely drift through and miss everyone.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know. It was just interesting that they decided to focus on this.
Yeah.
Um. Okay, so this movie we talked a little bit about before how this movie is basically they toned down a lot of the what's it called? Kind of the criminal element, the heist film element of the movies.
Yeah,
But
it's more just a straightforward street racing movie.
more than that, though, this movie is the Karate Kid, but with cars. It's the exact same movie.
I can see that.
It's just okay. Okay, kid moves to a different town. Reasons are different, but still, as a kid moves to a different town, he falls for a girl in the area that he really likes. She's dating a jerk. The jerk beats the kid up, or should I say, he beats him in a street race. You know, he trains, he drifts over and over again. He has a Mr. Miyagi, who's this awesome guy, and then Mr. Miyagi dies,
No.
which doesn't happen in Karate Kid.
I know.
And then he goes into he goes back to race the kid with higher stakes, and death is on the line, and he wins. The end. Karate Kid, cars, hooray!
I'm trying to think of what other franchise the Fast and Furious should ape at some point. Like if this is the Karate Kid of the franchise, I hope like someday we get the I don't know. It would be cool if there was like another type of franchise that they could just like emulate for one spinoff. Like if all of a sudden like James Wan's directing the new one, it would just be random and cool if all of a sudden, oh, Fast and Furious 8 is going to be a horror movie.
Well, Furious 7 is directed by James Wan, so
Yeah, I know.
amazing. Man, this is really the shittiest podcast ever.
Why would you say that?
I don't know. I just felt compelled to say it.
Oh, would it be because our other co-host Paul Duda is secretly listening in?
Yes, it is. I was ignoring him for the longest time, but now he's here.
He's
Sorry,
silent.
Paul snuck into the podcast. He has his mic turned off, but he's like typing in comments and stuff, trying to distract Nick and I.
Okay, but back on track. I love how in Japan you can still find a cool black friend.
Oh yeah, he's no Tyrese, but he's a guy. There's nothing really to say about his character. He doesn't really add anything to the movie other than
No,
just
and I feel like that's there was a moment in the movie, um, I think before the car chase that Han dies in, where all of a sudden I realized there was this whole group of people around them, and I realized there was this whole crew of characters that we never got to know in the movie, and I was like, I feel like there would have been more better time spent focusing on them than on Lucas Black's character. If you couldn't tell by now, I really didn't care for Lucas Black in this movie.
you didn't love his character so much.
No, not really.
Oh,
He just felt like you know, a Southern cliche that was stuck in a movie that he didn't belong in.
with blonde highlights, which well, actually he doesn't really have blonde highlights because he doesn't have hair long enough to have highlights.
No, no. Also, I can't believe the villain didn't die at the end.
Wait, didn't he when the car fell down?
No, I'm pretty sure he was still alive. He
I
just
don't think we
looked
ever
like
saw him after that, did we?
no, but it's implied that he's still alive. I thought.
I just remember seeing the car crash down. They had one cut of him in the car as it's flying down. That's the last I remember seeing him. I mean,
But
it could
then
be wrong, but
Lucas Black avoids the car as it crashes down another level, and then I'm pretty sure the guy gets out of the car because the whole point of the bet was whoever wins gets out of town. So you have
well,
to see him
if he
leave.
died, he certainly got out of town
Yeah,
in a darker way.
yeah, yeah. So, do you have any other random notes before we talk about the ending? This was I kind of knew watching this. I was like, I feel like I'm not gonna have as much to say about this one because even though it's different than the other ones, I just didn't enjoy it as much as the other ones. I kind of already said my opinion. What did you think of the movie as a whole?
I didn't care for it. It's a passable action movie from the 2000s
Yeah,
that didn't bring anything new to the table. As far as the Fast and the Furious movie, it didn't bring me anything that I expected, or anything not that I expected, but it didn't bring me the same level of entertainment that the first two did by any means.
yeah,
I somewhat enjoyed it while watching it, but yeah, I'll forget it in the next week.
yeah, yeah. It's almost been a week and I've already almost completely forgot about it. Um, uh, so let's talk about the ending because the ending is pretty much the only thing worth talking about, and I feel like it's the only thing that people were talking about when it
You
did.
mean the ending, right?
Yes, I mean the ending. Ending. This movie doesn't have a post-credit scene, but it basically has the equivalent of it.
It has a post-credit scene before the credits.
Yeah, basically, a scene that makes you super excited for the next one, which technically would be the eighth one, which hasn't happened yet, but that's beside the point. Um, so Vin Diesel shows up at the end of this movie, and that moment just feels so right. Like it's like this is what the Fast and the Furious is all about. Like Vin Diesel, like he's such like I said in the Too Fast Too Furious review, his lack of presence in that movie just takes so much of the innocence and kind of the charm out. So it was nice to see him, even if it was only for like 2 minutes. Um, and it's nice because this is kind of how they managed to get Han into the other movies because his entrance is basically like, "Oh, I was a friend of Han's. Will you race me?" Um, which I love how that's how he decides to race him because all the races that we've seen in this movie, if you're not the one who wins, your car gets messed up and you probably get badly injured. So it's like, why would you why would you be like, "Hey, we have this mutual friend. Let's race each other and see who doesn't come out into a pulp."
I really hope they address this in Furious Seven. Although it would kind of make sense if Han does become a bigger character in the sequels, which are prequels to this one, and Lucas Black is in Furious Seven. Maybe they're gonna tie this scene in as like Vin Diesel trying to recruit Lucas Black from recommendation of Han or something like that.
That's what this franchise is becoming. We were talking about the Karate Kid, but the Fast and Furious franchise eventually just turns into the Avengers of car movies.
it's It's all the same universe, guys.
So they'll recruit Lucas Black, and then eventually they'll recruit Burt Reynolds from Smokey and the Bandit.
Yes. Wait, what?
That would be pretty awesome, though. But it's funny because the ending with Vin Diesel wasn't originally supposed to happen. Because obviously Vin Diesel seemed to have something against sequels in general because he did the Fast and the Furious and Triple X and didn't appear in any of their sequels. And now he's fully committed to Fast and Furious, and they're trying to get a third Triple X movie with him involved, but he didn't want to be in this movie. And apparently, instead of I don't think he got paid for this cameo. I think his condition was that he got the rights back to Riddick, which is the only franchise of his that he's actually been in every installment of, and that's why the second one was made by Universal, but the third one that came out like a year or two ago, they did independently because he got the rights back just for doing this role. And the whole reason they stuck him in the end of this movie is because the movie was not testing well without him. But then, of course, if the end of your movie is Vin Diesel shows up, everyone, of course, is back to being excited about the Fast and the Furious franchise. So I'd say it worked, even all these years later. When I know he's going to be in the next one, it still got me super excited.
So basically, it's their apology to for making a crappy movie, and they're just saying like, yeah, we're sorry this movie sucks. Here's some Vin Diesel. He'll be in the next one.
And that's kind of a weird thing because that's what I thought too. Is you're watching a movie, and then within the movie, it apologizes for itself basically. And it's like, don't worry, if this does well enough, we'll give you what you really want.
That's an amazing way to make shitty sequels.
Which is funny because like a lot of people complain that about Marvel movies, how they're just advertisements for the next one. But I felt that a lot about this movie, where like not so much that it was advertising another one, but that it was like, oh, we're sorry for this one, we'll do better next time. Yeah. So I have in my notes, Joe. I have an apology from the last episode. You said there was a warning before the credits on this one, and I told you it was on Too Fast Too Furious. It was on Too Fast Too Furious, but it's also on this one too.
Okay, gotcha. Gotcha. So it wasn't both of them. I didn't remember it on one of them.
It was in both of them, but the end credits again, like we said, no post credits scene, nothing really special. The one thing that stood out to me was there was a song over the end credits, and so the movie's called Tokyo Drift. Then why is the end credits song in Spanish?
Because all those Hispanics in Tokyo.
I don't like. I was trying to think about it, and I was like, well, when Vin Diesel shows up, like obviously he's it sounds like he's playing some Hispanic rap music or something like that, but it's just like, and maybe they just decided to like go into the credits off that note, but it still didn't make sense. It's like, why not find like a Japanese song or something on the credits? I don't know.
It's part of their apology, saying we're going back to what the first two movies were with the next one.
Come back for Fast and Furious 4 now with more Mexican music.
You mean just Fast and Furious, right?
Yes, just Fast and Furious. Which here's I don't think I brought this up on any of the other ones, but I usually watch these just one a week apart, so they're fresh in my mind when we review them. But after I watch each one, I also watch the trailer for the next one, and the trailer, I think it would be the teaser trailer for Fast and Furious, is really good at getting you excited for that movie, because it's basically like, hey, what's the tagline for the movie? It's basically like new model original parts, and they show all the characters like doing what you want to see them do and stuff, and it looks really awesome.
That
so,
poster.
So that got me super psyched. So if you haven't watched the trailer for Fast and Furious yet, I recommend doing it because I guarantee it will get you excited to watch the next one.
Awesome. Looking forward to watching the trailer for the movie, but not the actual movie.
But not the actual movie, just the trailer. And I've actually seen the next one, but I don't really remember it. I remember a couple. I remember the beginning of it and maybe one or two scenes here or there, but it's very vague. So I won't really be bringing any critical opinions into the movie.
Just to be clear, we're only reviewing the trailers for these movies, right? Not the actual movies.
Oh, totally. Oh, totally. Everything we talked about, Han dying, whatever, was totally spoiled in the Tokyo Drift trailer.
I can't believe they showed that in the trailer.
I know.
Awesome. I'm on IMDb right now, and there's like I'm looking at the poster for Fast and Furious, and there's just the header around the article just matches the stars, just getting in my head.
Have you seen it yet?
No, I haven't.
Oh, okay. I feel like that would be a movie I would want your opinion on.
I want Cronenberg to make the next Fast and Furious movie.
Oh my gosh.
The cars would like transform into robots or something.
Okay, wait. So they have the screens in the car. So you do Videodrome 2, but you have it take place in a car.
Have David Spade be in the movie.
Why David Spade?
I have no idea. He's just the first guy that popped into my head just now.
Why? We're talking about David Cronenberg. How does that? I mean, David Cronenberg, David Spade. Okay.
I just want to see David Spade get more work with David Cronenberg.
Doesn't he have a TV show? Doesn't he appear in every Adam Sandler movie? Isn't he doing Joe Dirt too?
Probably. I was having this image of like Videodrome with David Spade. He's like, oh hell no, what's going on here, guys?
Long live the new flesh.
All right. I think we've officially gone off the road with this podcast. So.
Yes, I think yeah, the Too Fast, Too Furious and Tokyo Drift definitely I think the low points hopefully anyway, at least that's how people have kind of presented it. So if those are the low points, then I'm excited for where we're going next.
Awesome. Wait. How did they get Vin Diesel to be in the other sequels if he hates doing sequels?
Because I guess I don't know. I guess we'll have to look that up and talk about it next week.
Yeah. Oh, one final note before we sign off here. Everyone talks about these movies as being huge movies about family and groups together and that kind of stuff. And this movie had none of that at all.
No. If anything, this movie breaks up families. Like in the beginning, Lucas Black totally steals that guy's girlfriend. Except he really doesn't. She makes herself the prize, but then he doesn't get her in the end, even though he technically won.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I didn't realize it's gonna be so confusing having Lucas Black and Paul Walker in the same movie. I got them both confused.
No, they're not in the same movie.
They're not?
No, he's not in Fast 7. He'll be in Fast 8, probably. I think.
Hold on. IMDb, you're my friend.
Because with the unfortunate passing of Paul Walker, they have to find, someone else to bring in.
IMDb says that Lucas Black is in Furious 7.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. Maybe he is. I guess I just haven't seen him in any of the trailers.
Maybe he has like one role or like one shot, like one scene in the movie.
It might have been that they were talking about buffing up his role then for Furious 8 because of Paul Walker.
Man, I can't wait till Dwayne Johnson comes to the series. Is that the next one?
No, that's Fast 5.
Man, can we skip that one?
You're right. There are a bunch of articles. Lucas Black returns for Fast 7, 8, and 9.
Okay, then. I guess he's the new Paul Walker now for the series.
So we know we're going to get at least 9 total Fast and Furious movies. But at that point, once you get to number 9, you might as well make it an even 10. That way, you can have Fast and Furious X. And
yeah. Wait. 30, it'll be Fast and Furious Triple X.
Isn't there? Oh, and then you have the ultimate crossover of Vin Diesel franchises. Isn't there like a Driver X or something in a movie?
Probably something like that. Do you know what I want to see? I want to see film franchises with the same main character crossovers. So we can see the same actor play multiple roles. So like, what if Triple X, Fast and Furious, and Riddick all crossed over? So you have like 3 different versions of Vin Diesel in all of them. In one movie.
And then, just for the heck of it, have him meet the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Fast and the Furious in space.
Dom decides that racing cars on Earth isn't worth it anymore. Teams up with the guy from Triple X, who I'm pretty sure is some type of James Bond special agent. They go into space. They crash land on a planet where Riddick is. They have to fight him, and then the Guardians of the Galaxy come in at the last moment, and they get saved by Groot. I just
want to see a scene where the villain is taking off in a space shuttle, and they drive their cars up to land inside the space shuttle on their way up, and they're like driving around a space station or something like that.
It really wouldn't surprise me if we got the Fast and Furious equivalent of like Moonraker.
It'd be amazing if it's just like a giant space station with like just dedicated to racing.
This is what I think is the pleasure of this franchise, though, is that we'll get to a point, and then we'll look back and be like, remember when this movie was just about street racing, which it never was, except in this one of all the movies, apparently. But it's one of those things that's so great to look at as a whole and be like, this is where we started. How the hell did we wind up here?
We're gonna be racing on the highway to heaven. They in one of the movies, all the characters die in like this one street race, and they're all like racing like in heaven or something like that.
No, this is what happens. All the characters go to heaven, except one of the characters accidentally goes to hell, so they have to drive down to hell to save that character and bring him back to heaven.
They build a ramp to jump from hell to heaven. Make these movies happen, people. Where the franchise needs to go. Fast and the Furious, Jason X.
That would be great.
Become like the Mario Kart for just like weird franchises mixed together.
That's what they should do. They want to make a Mario movie. They should just make a Mario Kart movie and then just bring in the Fast and Furious. The Fast and Furious Rainbow Road.
Alrighty. That's all I got. I don't have anything else. I think
That's
I'm
all I've got
all
too,
talked out.
especially considering that we just spent the past 5 minutes talking about anything other than specifically Tokyo Drift.
Alrighty. As in with all the other episodes, hit us up on Facebook, YouTube, the-letterbox.com. I'm Joe.
Nick.
And we're signing off.